Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our community discussion. This is a developer support from Microsoft. Before we begin, allow me to share how to engage with our team today. Basically, we're going to go over a couple of housekeeping items. So we're going to review the etiquette. You will meet our lovely team panel. And then we are going to turn it over to all of you as we want you to drive the conversation. So please don't be shy and ask the questions to really utilize this time with us. How to ask the questions. So basically, you're going to use the chat window to the right to ask your questions. You may post those questions anonymously or let us know your name. And what we will try to do is answer the most popular questions first. So if someone beat you to the question, just give it a thumbs up and we'll try to get to those ones in the order of popularity. And in addition, we just want to remind you that this session may be recorded for internal use. We ask that all of you please do not record this session in any fashion. We ask that you adhere to the Microsoft Code of Conduct. And please note that there is a slight 10-second delay with our sound and the audio as well as the slides. So you may see a little delay. And this is the last reminder of the Code of Conduct. And then let me jump to introducing you to our team of experts who are here to address your questions. Let's begin with David Armijo.
Hi, Sydney. Thanks for hosting today.
So before you give your name and title, I thought it'd be fun if you can also maybe give what's your favorite part of your job, and how long have you been at Microsoft?
Okay, well, thanks. My favorite part of the job is actually interacting with all the different people in the company and with customers and hearing what they're doing and some of the interesting things that they're doing with technology. So that part I love. I've been with Microsoft 16 years, so I live in Kirkland. And I work on the US Azure solution team, so look forward to answering questions and welcome you to our session.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David. Next, we have Ilya. Ilya, if you can maybe give us a typical day in the life of a developer at Microsoft, and along with your intro, that would be great.
Absolutely. So good morning or good time of the day, everyone. My name is Ilya Silberstein, and I'm the worldwide offering lead for developer support. So I'm responsible for the strategy, operations, and the proactive programs that we deliver to our customers. So I've been 10 years at Microsoft, and the typical day of the application development manager at Microsoft, so these are the people that you'll hear today from. These really are the people that deliver the developer support services to customer. Is very different. So it can start anywhere from a strategic conversation about a customer business need to troubleshooting and helping customer resolve a problem. And in between, it can be a discussion about an architecture or design of Azure solution, or maybe even helping a customer to figure out how to develop a driver for their new device. So it's very diverse. I don't think there is any day that is really the same as the other one.
Sounds great. Thank you for sharing. Next, we have Art. Art Garcia, you're on mute.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Art Garcia. I'm Application Development Manager for Microsoft. I've been with Microsoft just under 3 years.
Great. And what's your favorite part of being a developer?
Favorite part of my job is my interaction one-on-one with my customers, going out, working with my customers on projects, helping them figure out solutions.
Great, thank you. And then now we will go to Charles.
Greetings, everyone at Build. I'm Charles Ofori, and I'm an application development manager here at Microsoft Developer Support. I've been at Microsoft for 20 years, a little over 20 years. And I started as an application development consultant in Microsoft Consulting Services. Now, what's my favorite part of my day? Really, it is when I am working with customers and looking at the things they want to achieve over the next year, 2 years, and figuring out how to partner with them to get the best solution out of that. That is what drives me.
Great.
And I live in Redmond, Washington.
Awesome. Thank you. Joseph, you're next.
Hello, everybody. My name is Joseph Flanagan, nicknamed MS Joe. I've been at Microsoft over 26 years. It probably dates me very well here on the team, but my favorite part of the job is certainly interacting with our partners. Through the years, I've dealt with many customers and partners, and the greatest satisfaction is seeing you all overcome the obstacles that are put in front of you to, get to the finish line and deliver that solution and succeed in business. That's what I enjoy.
Okay.
Hopefully, we'll do some of that today.
Thank you. And now we'll go to Rob. Hey, Rob, we can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, you try to guard against that all the time, and it bites you. So my name's Rob Williams. I'm a unified support specialist in Northeast Pennsylvania. And the favorite part of my job is, I would say, finding a way or a solution with a customer to get them the services that they need to deliver the project that they need. And it comes down to working not only with the customer, but the ADMs and people from the development team to really understand what's needed and come to the right price for that solution and get it kicked off and on its way.
And how long have you been at Microsoft?
About 6.5 years.
Okay. All right, and then we'll go to Rob's colleague, Mark.
Good morning, everyone. This is Mark Grubich. I am located in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I've been with Microsoft for just past 14 years. And my role is a solution specialist for Premier and Unified Support. And so, every day I'm engaged with sellers and customers and aligning those customers with the right resource within Microsoft for the best solution. So in a perfect example here in working with this team of developers, as you have a need for developer support, helping you contract that with Microsoft and aligning you with the right individual for the best outcome.
Great, thank you. And the voice you're hearing in the background, my name is Cindy Yoon, and I'm part of the U.S. Services team. I'm the Cross Solution Strategy Manager, and I will be the moderator for this panel discussion today. And if we can move, and we will have these slides again at the end so that you can capture our information. Okay, so Ilya, can you talk to the slide about the framework for the services for developers?
Absolutely. So thank you again, everyone, for joining. Really happy to be here to answer your questions about developer support. And I think we should start with really the introduction of what developer support is about. So first of all, developer support is Microsoft's premium enterprise support offering for developers. And as you can see here on this slide, first of all, we focus on helping you modernize the development processes so you can deliver value to your customers faster and with better quality. So we do that by providing proactive services such as workshops or implementation assistance for Azure DevOps and GitHub. Together with that, we also help you really adopt the agile development methodology and do the organizational cultural changes that are required to really mature and implement DevOps practices. Now, one more thing that our customers shared with us many times is that they successfully implement continuous integration and delivery practices of DevOps, but really struggle with security testing and quality testing aspects to the point that they sometimes have to sacrifice them to deliver value faster, but it sometimes ends with security breaches and downtimes. So we have a special team that specializes on testing automation and really helps customers implement these mature automated testing practices as part of their DevOps processes and tools implementation. Now, the second aspect of developer support is all about accelerating innovation, and especially when it comes to leveraging the power of Azure. And we do that by providing expert and proactive services throughout your development lifecycle. So it starts in the envisioning phase, where our experts help you with envisioning the solution, building prototypes, POCs, and really help you understand how you can use the Microsoft technology in the best way according to your business needs. And then as we go closer to the development phase, we provide you with experts that can help you with design and the architecture of the solutions to make sure they're secure, reliable, scalable, and especially designed to cost, which is really important with Azure, and supportable once you launch them. And as you go into the development phase, some of our development experts help you with workshops or upskilling of your software engineers, and removing roadblocks, doing code reviews, so making sure that the quality of your code is maximized and that you leverage the best capabilities of .NET and our Azure PaaS services. And as you transition into the production environment, we help you maintain the application and continuously optimize for performance, scale, cost, and really make sure that we reduce the risk of failure in the production environment. Now, throughout this entire life cycle, where we focus on DevOps, application security, testing automation, application modernization, and really leveraging the power of the cloud with AI and IoT services, we provide 24/7 problem resolution services. And these services are there when problems happen with Microsoft technology, whatever it's on-premise, in Azure, or with development frameworks. You'll always have a support engineer that you can talk to, and will help you resolve the problem. And even if the problem cannot be resolved with support, it can be escalated all the way to our engineering that will help to create the bug fix for your issue. Now, we have application development managers on this call that really are the people, the key people for developer support to deliver our value, that work day in and day out with our customers to help them leverage our services. So I think you guys are the best people to demonstrate and share some examples of what we do with our customers. So would you like to chime in?
Hey, Charles,
Sure.
why don't we begin with you?
Certainly. So, thank you, Ilya. As Ilya articulated there, our day really comprises of two buckets. The reactive side of things, where the customer has an issue, they raise a support ticket, and what we do as application development managers, along with an assigned incident manager, if that customer does have one, we monitor the progress of the incident and step in if some escalations need to be made in order to move things faster. If there are any roadblocks, we chime in to assist, whether it means moving it up the scale into the product group that owns the product or technology, or whether it involves pulling in some of our developer consultants where the support process has identified that there is some code probably that needs to be re-architected from the customer solution. So that's one side of our day. The other side of the day is really where we are proactively looking at some of the things that are coming up in the customer's support cases, looking for patterns, and proactively looking at how we can deliver either chalk talks, workshops, technology seminars to the customer to train their staff so that they can prevent those issues happening in the future. So those are two areas that we live in. An example of a situation that we had with one of my customers was when there was something that the customer needed in the operating system, Windows 10. And in order to achieve the goal that they wanted in their solution. Now, this feature was actually in the roadmap for Windows, but it wasn't going to be available for probably another 9 to 12 months. So what did we do there? As the application development manager, I was able to discuss the features that the customer was looking for and then pull in our subject matter experts in our application development consulting team. We were then able to work with the customer and build a proof of concept for them in about six to 8 weeks, which they were then able to demonstrate to their senior management, get approval to get their product into production ahead of when Windows product group was actually going to incorporate that feature in the product. So this is something that shows that we can proactively work with the customers to help them building proof of concept or solutions that helping them with solutions that they may need that the product is not yet ready for, so that they are not held back in their drive to getting to market.
Great, thank you, Charles. Joseph, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Oh, for sure. No, Charles is absolutely right. And our customers certainly vary in size, right? It's from small, customers to big organizations that you've all heard of. The customer that I support in a day-to-day basis, I mean, I can give you an example of even earlier this week, right? We have had a scheduled meeting with the Service Fabric team where we were going over code review of their Service Fabric to Service Bus interaction and the applications that they're running on their clusters. That led to code reviews, again, a complex solution, but it led to code reviews of their applications that are, on-prem, the physical, typical point of sale machine applications that are interfacing with their solution of Azure in the cloud. Those went through a code review. It's a big company, I won't name them, but questions will come from all across the board. And one of them was for Microsoft Security Code Analysis. It's an offering that you can install into your DevOps pipeline, and the customer was interested in putting that into theirs. So I arranged a meeting with the product team that offers that, and that was also held on Monday. So getting to know our offerings and making those connections internally, because that's part of our job, is representing you within Microsoft. Now, certainly we, as an ADM, I'm getting to know my customer and their products and solutions. I've been with this particular customer over 3 years, at the start of their Azure journey, to the point that today there's over 120 Azure solutions that they have deployed. Keeping up with those, I'll typically get involved in what they call their onboarding meetings when a particular application team is dispensed their non-prod and prod Azure subscriptions. And at that point, I'm more of a fly on the wall to get to know the team, who they are, who the people are, and introduce them to how to get support from us. And that typically, as Charles mentioned, is in a reactive state. You're in the Azure portal, you need something unblocked, you have a problem with something, and you create a case from there. We, as application development managers, are notified automatically of every case creation under every Azure subscription in your tenant. And that's how we keep track of its progress, as Charles was mentioning. But nevertheless, I explain to people how to get engaged with us. Beyond that, I get to know their solution, what's in that particular stack. And even today, solutions are super complex, so they will run into problems, and they're almost the same problems, if you will, traditional problems, right? In Service Fabric, oh, you've run into a problem. We root cause it down to keeping up to date with releases of SDK versions, right? That's as an example, right? But as Charles mentioned, we also analyze and see what is a common pattern across support cases. With this particular customer, they have over 700 Azure subscriptions. And with the volume of cases that come through, we can clearly see, oh, we need to have classes on Databricks, for example. They're doing some data analysis solutions. And to that end, we have routinely scheduled Databricks workshops live for them. And we've even transitioned, obviously, through this era to delivering those remotely. Not only do we have delivered Databricks workshops to them specifically remotely, one is actually at the end of this week after build, thankfully. We all personally even deliver training to them. I've trained over 400 of their developers introductory Azure on IaaS and PaaS. So these are the types of things that we do, getting to know what your products are and reactively supporting them. And I could go on and on through the years. As I'm involved in the daily scrums and stand-up meetings as they approach their significant release milestones, of which I explicitly ask them for, because it's important for me to know when a major release is occurring, when you're going GA, you may be adding more capacity or some other event to your DevOps cycle. And I want to prepare Microsoft to support you during those times. That's, again, a managed part of the role of developer support.
Great, thank you, Joe. Hey, Mark, can we go to the next slide? As promised, everyone, this session is for you, about you. So we are going to move into the Q&A, and we want you to drive the next half hour that we have remaining. Next slide, Mark. And please start posting your questions in the chat window. Don't be shy. Now, looks like we already have a few, so let's begin. First question is, using Azure DevOps pipelines to deploy applications, how can we get a complete list of members able to deploy to a specific stage in our organization? Art, can you take that question?
Yeah, absolutely. What I would suggest for that is to use the Azure DevOps APIs, and I will post a link to a article I wrote on the APIs and how to use them, how to get a list of users, how to get a list of teams, who's in the team and who does what. So using the APIs and then using Azure Security will give you what you need.
Great. And speaking of which, we do have a group email address. So if we, for some reason, are not able to get to your question during this session, feel free to send an email to askdevsupport@microsoft.com. It's ask, DEV support, all one word, at Microsoft.com. And one of our team members will put that in the chat window for all of you. Okay, next question. Hey, Art, looks like DevOps is a popular topic. What is DevOps?
DevOps is the union of people, process, and products to deliver value to the end user. And that's the key to DevOps. DevOps is delivering value. The tools is a piece of it. The people and the process. A lot of people always focus on, well, I need this tool. I need Jenkins. I need GitHub. I need all these different tools. The tools is just one piece of it. The real crux behind DevOps is delivering value to your end user, and the tools and the process and the people are just parts of that.
Okay. And then the next question we have is, how do we help drive to cloud maturity. David, do you want to take that question?
Sure, thanks, Cindy. So as part of the work that we do on the solution strategy team, we work with the cloud adoption framework, which is the way we actually look at cloud maturity. There is part of the adoption framework. It's how we define the strategy, how we plan for it, how we actually get ready to actually deploy and actually adopt. And I think the key thing there is govern and manage is where people really are focused on from a maturity perspective. Is once I've actually been in deployment, how do I actually govern, manage, what's the compliance that I need to do to keep my environment stable? And then what capabilities am I actually building on? And so that's really where I think then the next level gets into, which is after I've built a framework, if you will, around how I'm going to manage the environment, then it gets into what capabilities am I using and what level of capability am I actually using and driving within the business or within your application.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Factory Optimizer. What are the developer support options for early stage startups with lean cash flow? Ilya, could you take that question?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it really depends on the needs of your startup. And I understand that for a startup, lean cash flow might be a challenge for paid support. So if you really are at this initial first stages of your company, I would suggest going to the Azure support plans webpage. And I'll post a link here after I finish. So you can, I would say that the best support tier for startups in their first phases would be Professional Direct. And Professional Direct gives you both really high quality reactive support for Azure, as well as some proactive services that you can talk to experts and ask them questions. And then as you grow, as you start consuming maybe more Azure services, then you can transition to the developer support, the enterprise developer support that we're talking about, and get access to more expertise and experts. But the Professional Direct probably is the best tier for early stage startups.
Great, thank you. Next question I'm seeing is, when is the right time to engage developer support? Joseph, do you want to take this one?
Sure, you should engage developer support at the moment you need to. Do not hesitate. It's kind of ironic. The partners that I deal with, they're big, but some of them within the customer, they'll be trying to drive down support cases. They feel support cases are bad, and I try to change their thinking around to saying support cases are good. The more the merrier, in my opinion. It shows that we're interacting together and overcoming the obstacles. If we don't see any support cases, I would be very worried that there's people that need our help and they're not reaching out to ask for it. So long answer short, please engage with us immediately, always, and often.
Great. Okay, what are some of the most common problems you resolve? Rob, do you want to take that one? Kick that one off?
Sure, sure, absolutely. Now that I've mastered the mute button, Cindy. So here's what I've seen over the years in my role as a solution specialist. Primarily when I start working with customers, and this is before they have developer support, the typical scenarios are one and two big categories. The first category is they're having a significant performance issue. It's usually a homegrown application that they've developed. It might be getting a little bit antiquated, and they're having performance issues, delays, and user dissatisfaction. And that is a big driver of getting people engaged with developer support. And although it's good that they first get engaged with us, I think that the more important thing is they learn once they've built that relationship, then and start working with Microsoft, and explain what they're doing, how they're doing it, and start doing code reviews and start doing security reviews and performance reviews, they really start understanding the value of developer support, which leads me to the next big area is either creating a new application or modernizing an old application and bringing that into a world of of online or an Azure, the Azure world. So those are the big categories, right? Modernization of applications that have been in their organization, or dealing with performance issues. And it doesn't really matter how you come to us. I think the relationship starts to broaden, and there's collateral value. And I don't like the word collateral damage. I like the word collateral value, right? You come for one reason, and you start to learn about a lot of other ways that the ADM can help you and bring the right specialists to work with you and resolve your issues.
Great, thank you. Did anyone else on the panel have anything to add to this, or should I go on to the next question? Okay, I'm going to move on. Looks like we have a question from Joe. From an enterprise perspective, the tooling and services change so quickly that it is very difficult to keep up to date with recommended best practices. While we have good contacts within Microsoft, many times we are trying to figure out things out on our own first, rather than solely relying on Microsoft. Are there any plans to improve communication of the current best practices?
And I can take it if you'd like.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so I think this is a really great and relevant question, especially because our technology evolves so quickly these days and we launch so many new and exciting features. So engineering teams really work hard to improve the documentation and provide best practices, provide samples as they release the new versions and new features to their products. So they definitely are working on that. What we are doing on our end in the developer support, we provide you with certain capabilities of and services such as prototyping or hackathons, where we can help you with the initial kind of a bootstrap of your capabilities, of your skills in these new technologies, and then you can continue by yourself to the point that you need more advanced skills from the Microsoft experts. So we can help you in this very initial phase to figure out what's the best technology for you out of all these new features, and how to find the right best practices and documentation, help you with this initial upskilling, and then you can continue developing on your own and get our experts involved again when you're in these advanced phases of closer to production releases, or you need some code reviews, in our expertise.
Thank you. Okay.
I can add to that.
Okay, great, Charles.
And I'll give an example of a scenario that I had with a customer who was embarking on a project of providing a solution on the cloud. Now, what did they do? They initially looked at it as, we need to go and look at all the documentation that is out there and get ourselves up to speed on what is out on the internet before we can really come to developer support and ask for questions. Now, I looked at that and I said, well, why don't we look at it a different way? Can we have what we call a simple scoping call of 15 to 30 minutes where the customer articulates what they are trying to achieve? And what our developer support consultants then did was break that down into the components of technology areas that would need to be focused on for the type of solution they were trying to build. And so we were able to break it down into security, identity, and then the different layers of their solution. We're able to break it down into, these are the areas that you need to focus on in getting skilled up, your team skilled up on. And as a result, we're able to streamline that and deliver a couple of workshops. One of them was actually just a brainstorming session, what we would call a chalk talk, and we're able to accelerate how quickly they were able to get up to speed. So the earlier you engage with developer support in those areas, the less time you have to go searching around the internet for more documentation that, as Ilya mentioned, the products are changing so quickly that sometimes some of the documentation are not keeping up, and a lot of effort is being made by the product group to update all that documentation. But sometimes having subject matter experts to guide you into the specific areas that you need to tool up for your solution is very valuable.
Great. Anyone else have anything to add to that? Okay, we will move on. Cloud cost management is one of the top priorities for many companies. How does developer support help customers manage their cloud spend? Ilya, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So as we mentioned previously, designing to cost and managing the cost of your cloud services is really important for us. Many customers, especially the larger enterprise customers that we work with that spend millions of dollars on Azure, have asked us for this support multiple times. So we built a program that helps customers from management and transparency through the monitoring of the costs, so making sure that the new resources that are provisioned don't exceed the quotas, and that the existing resources don't suddenly start inquiring costs that are higher than expected. So monitoring and transparency, management and transparency, then monitoring, and then optimization. So helping customers with tracking the consumption and providing recommendations on how to optimize. So it may be there are resources that are really idle and they can be managed in a different way, or the dev and test environment might need, for example, might not necessarily need global redundancy. So there are many ways to optimize Azure resources. So we provide help with that. So it's a program that does upskilling. So we provide workshops and trainings on how to manage the environment and get to the full transparency down to the application level and organizational unit. And then we provide the technical experts that help you implement things like tagging, things like policies to make sure that all the resources are properly monitored. And then, as I mentioned, continuous optimization, where we go through your resources together with you and help you configure them in a better way that will reduce cost or use different resources. And we have many examples. There was a customer that came to us in Europe that they came to us for help after one of their developers provisioned an AKS cluster, Azure Kubernetes cluster, with like 45 nodes. And no one knew about it. So, and the developer forgot to turn it off. So eventually at the end of the month, they inquired over $10,000 of cost without absolutely knowing that, and only discovered that when they had to pay for it at the end. So these are the things we help prevent as part of our program.
Great, thank you. Next question.
Can I add to that?
Yes,
yeah,
of course.
This is David. So one of the things that we do work on with customers is what we call the Cloud Center of Excellence, and CCOE is what it's called. So CCOE is a program that looks at how do I build quality processes and capabilities, and it's part of the maturity framework that I talked about earlier, but I think that's a key part of it. And then there's a second program as part of that, which is called cloud optimization. So both of those programs really do look at cost and how you're actually leveraging the best value of the cloud.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to add before I move on? Okay, it looks like the next question is, I can create a Power BI report for a given DevOps project, but how do I create a report that looks across all of our DevOps projects? Art, do you want to take that one?
Sure. There is a plugin for Azure DevOps for Power BI that will help you with that. And if you send an email to askdevsupport@microsoft.com, I can send you a link to that.
Great. Looks like we have another general question. Why do I need developer support? Charles, do you want to take that one?
Yes, certainly. The need for developer support really is you can classify it as, one, you have experts who can support you in your journey. These are development experts who have various expertise in different technologies, especially in today's world where technologies are growing so rapidly, and the choice of which APIs to use for certain things can vary very much depending on what you intend to do with your solution and how what the roadmap looks like for your solution. And so having engaging with developer support early enables you to have Microsoft developer experts guide you through where the direction that Microsoft is taking the technology. In some cases, APIs that are being used today may not be what we are looking at using 15 months down the road. A new technology improvement is coming down the road. And so engaging early enables you to really be able to have us help you with the best practices to use, both from a process standpoint and a technology standpoint, to ensure that you have better success in delivering a stable solution that is secure as well.
Great, thank you. Anyone else on the panel have anything to add? Okay. I don't see any further questions. If I missed one, team, feel free to chime in.
I published one, Cindy, in the...
Go ahead and read it out loud.
Sure. It's from Stefan. He said, to keep the fun in development, it is more interesting for me with preemptive learning support than actually needing someone to fix my code later. Wholeheartedly agree with that. We'd rather have you, understanding best practices and the technology that you're concerned with, ahead of time, so you are following best practices and you don't get into those situations. How do you tailor the support for this preference? Absolutely. In fact, we do it all the time. Again, understanding what technologies are of concern to you, and the list is huge. And tailoring that kind of training for you at a time is an example of what you would coordinate with your ADM. So also too, there's other learning activities and vehicles, if you will, it depending on the type of support that you get involved with. If you're speaking of unified, we have a lot of online training offerings around our technologies as well. So people, your developers or your team, can do self-paced training online. Again, we can tailor whatever it is you need, whether it's expert, on hands, remote, online, self-paced. Yes, getting to know what you desire the training for and making sure it happens is what we can do.
Great. Thank you. Question from Ranjit. How do I get an architecture support for AI solutions? David, can you answer that?
That's a good question. So we're actually developing right now a proof of value concept with AI that covers cognitive and machine learning as the primaries. But, I think the key thing there is, from a consulting perspective, we do have an offering that looks into AI envisioning, and in part of envisioning, there's actually an architecture assessment. So there's a couple different programs that are available today from that. But from an ease of use, I think the best thing is to go out and actually look at Microsoft.com and some of the work that we've been publishing there as far as architectures that you could start with as kind of a baseline, and then from there, if you want, you could engage our consulting services team.
Great, thank you. Am I missing any other questions, team?
You know, there was an interesting question that I saw around mentoring, and I did see Ilya responded, which I think was good. There's a couple things that I would actually add to that. One is, and many people probably use LinkedIn, they know it. LinkedIn has mentoring services, and as part of that, there are people who are volunteering as mentors, and so you can look at specific developers that might want to mentor others. So that's a free resource today, so that's something you could do. And then there's always, from a learning perspective, there's Microsoft Learn. So I would promote looking at both those resources to help grow your skills or capabilities from a developer perspective.
Great, thank you. Team, any other questions?
And to add on to that, there are, I believe I saw there are a couple of sessions on Microsoft Learn at Build. So look out for that in your schedule and maybe try to get to one of them.
That sounds great. And the other thing I do want to mention is that if you go to the session catalog under communities, our team provided a very general overview on developer support, but there are deep dives going on with one-on-one sessions you can sign up during build. So we encourage you to go and make an appointment with one of the experts to have a deep dive in an area you're specifically interested in. Any other questions? Team, I think I scrolled through most of the questions. Did I miss one?
I think we got quite a few questions from startups about support for capital venture opportunities, support for seeding, products exposure. So for all the startups they're out there in the audience, I would strongly recommend to check out the Microsoft for Startups. We have built this organization, I believe, about 7 years ago, and we have startup accelerators all over the world that specialize on scaling B2B startups. So if you are in the B2B world and you're looking for Microsoft support for exposure, for venture capital and scaling, I would strongly suggest to reach out to Microsoft for Startups, consider applying for their programs. They're really great.
Thank you. While we're waiting for more questions to stream in, Mark, can we go to the next slide so I could put that up for everyone? Great, thank you. It looks like we're about to run out of time, but before we do, while you are all still with us, we really want to truly thank you for joining our community session. Thank you for your time and engagement. Please, we encourage everyone to complete the survey for our session. Hopefully you saw some of our data sheets that were posted when you were RSVPing for our community discussion. It's under your My Schedule. And again, if we were unable to get to your question, or if you have additional questions for anyone on this team, please do not hesitate to send an email to askdevsupport@microsoft.com. Unfortunately, even if you provide us your emails in the chat window, due to Microsoft Build's privacy policy, we are not able to send a respond to individual emails. So the best way to get a follow-up would be to send an email to askdevsupport@microsoft.com, and we will do our best to get back to you upon the completion of Microsoft Build. Team, do we have any other questions in the chat window that as we are asking people to complete the surveys that we didn't get to? And again, we will remain on for the next 6 minutes. So if you do have any additional questions, please continue to post them in the chat window.
Thank you, Cindy, for hosting. That was
my pleasure. And thank you all in the panel. You guys did a great job. We really appreciate your time as well and expertise. And for those of you still with us, we really hope that you are having a great virtual Microsoft Build experience. It's the first time that we are hosting this conference virtually. We really miss seeing everyone this year and interacting with you in person. But the upside of having a virtual conference has been that we've noticed a huge uptick of participants joining from all around the world. In fact, I was told last night, at one point we had over 600,000 people participating in all the different aspects of our conference. I mean, that is a huge record. So hopefully all of you are having a good experience, learning, engaging. One of the upsides, another upside I should say, is that we had a participant from yesterday's session indicate that he was happy that there were no long lunch lines. That was the one thing he was not missing from attending in person. So again, if you do have any other questions, please do not hesitate to enter them in the chat window. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. And please continue to participate throughout the day and tomorrow for Microsoft Build. And if you were unable to download the data sheets, again, if you send an email to askdevsupport@microsoft.com, we'll be happy to send those data sheets over to you as well.